So Krishna till now, till verse 6, like there are right from the last chapter, Krishna is explaining about the many things about the demons or demonic nature or asuric nature. In the last verse also, we saw last two verses actually. Krishna explained that the austerities that are done or austerities done by a person uh, can also in asuric mood or asuric austerities if they are not specified in the scriptures or shastra. Such austerities are also asuric. And before that also, Krishna explained about in three modes how people with different faith worship different, like goodness will they will worship demigods, passion will worship rakshas, asuras, and ignorant will worship ghost and spirit. Now, from this verse, actually, Krishna will start explaining very practical indicators or practical experiences that we all can have. Okay, so the seventh verse is actually the summary what he's going to explain. Okay, aharastvapi sarvasya
Aharastvapi sarvasya
trivido bhavati priya
trivido bhavati priyaha
yajnastapastatha danam
yajnastapastata danam
tesham vedamimam shunu.
tejam vedam imam shrunu.
Okay, those are.
Aharastvapi sarvasya trivido bhavati priyaha yajnastapastata danam tesham vedam imam shrunu.
Okay. So translation and purport. Even the food each person prefers is of three kinds according to three modes of material nature. The same is true of sacrifice, austerity, and charity. Now here the distinctions between them, purport. In terms of different situations in different modes of material nature, there are differences in the manner of eating, performing sacrifice, austerity, and charities. They are not all conducted on the same level. Those who can understand analytically what difference of performances are in what modes of material nature are actually wise. Those who consider all kinds of sacrifice or food or charity to be the same cannot discriminate. They are foolish. There are missionary workers who advocate that one can do whatever he likes and attain perfection. But these foolish guys are not acting according to the direction of scriptures. They are manufacturing ways of misleading people in general. So, as I was explaining, this is the overview what Krishna is going to explain in the next verses in this chapter. So, almost from the next verse, like 13 or 14 verses, Krishna will explain each of these, um, like eating habits, then sacrifice, austerity, and charity. How in different modes people do different ways of charity. Of course, and also ahar, the food. What person eats, the person in different modes will eat different food because of his different faith in that food. So he will be interested in different kind of food. He will be interested in different sacrifices, austerities, and charities. So actually these verses from next verse, like in each verse I think Krishna explains goodness, passion, and ignorance, 333 like this. But this is uh, very helpful because our eating habits or our activities or our actions are also not always steady. We can also experience that sometimes we do some austerity or some sacrifice or some charity in different moods. So, by that, when we do in different moods, actually, if we know this chapter, we can understand like actually in what mode we are. By our eating, interesting eating, we can understand what mode we are going into. So these are actually the helpful signals that actually prompt us. Okay, if we are in passion or ignorance, we can understand by our activities, or our actions, and then we can correct them. Also, it is interesting because, um, even if we know that goodness is better than passion and ignorance, and we should, and goodness is more helpful for cultivating knowledge, but we can also observe that how much helpless we are. Uh, when I say helpless, actually, unknowingly these things happen. So unknowingly we will do activity that is not in goodness, that is in passion or ignorance. Without knowing we do this. So why this happens is actually because of the modes, and with the modes we develop faith or interest in different things, and then without any second thought we actually act. Uh, and by that action we can understand. So our habits are also um, repeated. We can observe on which day what we will like, based on our mood. So um, if we are in happy mood, what we like. If we are in sad mood, what we like. If we are angry, what food we like. So that depends on our mode. Actually, our interest also changes, and it is good to observe this thing, so that we can actually correct. Mm. And that also helps us to actually be humble. It humbles us because we can see that how we are being controlled by a thing that we don't know. Actually, we think that I can control anyone in this world, or I can control my working, or my mood. We think like that. But when helplessly we do the activities without our consent, just body and the senses operate, then we understand, oh my God, like this is beyond my control. And then actually it helps us to be humble and open for knowledge that there is something which is much more powerful than me, and I don't want to get driven by these powerful things. So this is like the modes which are very much powerful. But if I want to cross these modes, I have to take some shelter. So this type of mood, or this type of thoughts, consciousness actually helps us to do bhakti. So these chapters, though they are part of Gyan Yoga, where Krishna is explaining how this material world is made, how this material world acts, how this material world living entity acts. In the 15th chapter, he explains how the living entity goes from top to bottom, how this tree of material world is, and how we can get out of it, how he is the source of everything. But still this material world is works on its own self. Then he explains the different natures. Now he's explaining different faiths. So this is actually gyan of this material world, all how this material world is created and how it operates, and how the living being in this material world are of different kinds and different faiths. And based on that, actually these living beings do the activities. So even if this is Gyan part, but this Gyan is helpful because ultimately, of course, it is connected to Krishna. But apart from that, we also understand our situation in this material world, and how this material world is actually uh, thing that actually a place which binds us. And by that, actually, we should develop an urge, or of urgency, or urge of need to go out of this thing, where we can actually have a happy and peaceful life. So that's why this jnana is also helpful, and that's why Krishna is explaining this jnana in Bhagavad Gita. And his one important another point is he is explaining this after Arjuna has established, and Krishna has established the supremacy of bhakti, and Arjuna also agreed with that, and also Arjuna agreed to the position of Krishna, in the 10th chapter only, that you are the supreme. I agree to that. After that, these chapters are going. So This is actually supporting the bhakti part. Okay, so from tomorrow we'll see different activities in different modes and how that person, and we have to remember that Krishna said that according to the modes, a person develops particular type of faith or trust, and accordingly he acts. So from tomorrow we'll see how in different modes we do different activities. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Okay, any comments? Anything anybody like to add? Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Krishna, thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you very much.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.